you at a gym. He goes into corporation like. You just have to invite her back on the show because she was so great the first time. I called her this morning. Actually, I emailed her this morning and said, do you have time to join us today? And I'm so pleased to say that her schedule could accommodate it. Author of Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. She was with us about a month ago, and she's back today. Christy Demetrakis. Hi, Christy.
Hello, Mary.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad we could connect again.
I know this is wonderful. Now, are you down in North Carolina?
I'm in Kentucky.
In Kentucky. How's the weather down there today?
Oh, my gosh, it's a beautiful day.
Is it? Oh, good. Up here in Connecticut as well. So we're kind of continuing the summer season a bit. I love that.
Yes, and we just built a screened-in porch. I've wanted a screened-in porch for about 18 years.
Oh, really?
And I finally built one, and it's finally done, and it's just wonderful.
Well, it's funny, not that I asked you on to talk about screened-in porches, but I was at some friends' home last weekend over Labor Day, and they had just done the same thing. They had this deck that they had been wanting to screen in and cover, and they did, and that's where the party was. It was fabulous.
It is wonderful.
And they said, it seems like we have an entire new room.
It's true.
In our house.
And I think yesterday was the first time we kind of grasped the fact that we could leave our kitchen door open because it's right off of our kitchen. Could leave the kitchen door open and still, that nice breeze come through. It was just wonderful.
And the screen
I'm
will
just giddy like a little schoolgirl.
Oh, I love it. I love it, Christy. Oh, well, Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. When I first heard about Christy's book, I said, oh, my goodness, this sounds too wonderful. Have to get her on the show. Was fortunate enough to have been able to do that last month. And, Christy, one of the things, I'll say two overall things about your book. Mm-hmm. One is everything you say in it. Number two, and, the overall message, and I just love it. But number two, I really think it's great how you have divided the chapters up by different, attributes, maybe, traits, qualities in terms of faith and attitude and confidence, and these are different chapters. Would love to ask you, I had picked out two in my mind to ask you about, but for folks who did not hear you last month, could you talk just a little background information in terms of what inspired you to write the book and why you structured it this way?
Yeah, so I wrote the book in the fall of 2010, and I'm a quick kind of person. Once I set my mind to something, I don't like to take a long time to do it. So you've probably talked to a lot of authors, Mary, who say, I've been working on this book for 5 years, I've been working on it for 10 years or whatever. Yes. I actually wrote this book in about 6 months. And that was once I made up my mind to do it. And that's 6 months, including the time to send it to the press, and they re-edit it and do all those things. So this was a very quick work.
You're kind of a make-it-happen kind of woman, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. It's a gift and a curse.
Love it.
But, I was really inspired to write this book because my business is the Empowered Speaker, and I really have a passion for helping people to become more confident and dynamic public speakers. But the other side of me, which is more inherent in my genes, is entrepreneurship. My dad has been an entrepreneur all of his life, so I think I got the bug. And that is how, Faith to Conquer Fear really plays out. Once you've read the book, you can see that, and I think you can sense, my love for entrepreneurship and for people doing that thing that I believe that God has called them to do, or that they believe that God has called them to do, whether that's writing their own book, whether that's going back to school to get, finish a high school degree or to get that, secondary education, or if it's starting their own business, whatever that thing is. If you feel like you've been called to do that, this book is designed to inspire you and push you to move forward in pursuing that.
And it does just that in terms of open up the possibilities, and then the floodgates can be open, can't they?
That's right. That sure can.
Could we focus today on your communication chapter? Because communication, as really all the other facets of success that you talk about, but communication, I've always thought, whether it's in our personal life, in our relationships, in our business life, has got to be right up there.
It is absolutely right up there, which that's the part I can say really fits with the Empowered Speaker, is the communication piece. And what I talk about in the book is the fact that, communication styles are very different for everybody. Nobody communicates exactly the same. And if you're married or have a spouse or a significant other, the challenges of having to figure out how to best communicate with someone else. And so communication is critical, and the onus is on the communicator. because you can't just assume that because you're a very direct person, I'm speaking of myself, just because I'm a very direct person does not mean that everyone around me is also very direct. And that doesn't mean that they're comfortable with me just saying exactly what I think. Some people are very flowery. They like to tell stories, to give you their examples or to really explain things in detail, where I'm just like, okay, A plus B equals C. I don't really want to know what color, what shade of green the grass was. I don't want to know what shade of blue the sky was. I just want to know the sky was blue. But the onus is on me if I'm really looking to truly and effectively communicate with someone to embrace their style of communication and find that happy medium that allows both of us to be effective and communicate effectively.
And one of the things, and you must see this, Christy, all the time in your consulting practice, and Christy's website, again, is empoweredspeaker.com. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, yes.
That having the good, the strong, the positive communication skills that you are alluding to, they can be learned.
Yes, they absolutely can be learned. And they can be learned if you're willing to learn. That's the difference. Because everybody, and it's what I tell people, just because you think you can talk doesn't mean that you're a great presenter. Just because you can talk doesn't mean you're a great communicator either. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to listen to the other person and say, okay, if this way that I normally communicate isn't working, what do I need to adjust? Doesn't mean you change who you are, but what do I need to adjust to work better? And what I reference in the book is my experience in working with Fortune 500 companies over the years. If anyone who's worked for more than one company, you know that communication styles and the way companies communicate is different. And so when you go into a new company, if you're smart, you don't go in like a bull in a china shop and you just say, I want this and this and all these, demands, and you're just talking any kind of way. What you do is you sit back, if you're smart, and you listen. And you take things in and say, okay, how do they communicate here? How do they communicate bad news? How do they communicate good news? What's the best way to get a response? If I need something done, does it happen faster if I call someone and literally talk to them over the phone? Does it work better if I email them? Because communication is verbal, nonverbal, and written. It's not just one thing for communication. And so the onus is on you as the communicator to figure out what is the best way to get what I need done in this organization.
Speaking with Christy Demetrakis. How did I do with your last name, Christy?
Demetrakis.
Demetrakis, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for that. Faith to conquer fear, inspiration to achieve your dreams. You just mentioned, in terms of talking about communication, the word listening. And when you said that, Christy, I was thinking, if we take that for a moment from the business realm, from our professional lives to our personal lives, and whether it be a spouse, a significant other, a partner, a family member, listening is probably pretty key across the board of our lives, isn't it?
It is key, but none of us do it very well.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
We all want to be heard. We all want to be heard. And it's so funny because I often look, and we'll kind of go back and forth between the business and the personal, but in business environments, if you think about the people who talk a lot in meetings, and then you have people who you just watch, and I'm an observer, I always sit at a specific spot in a meeting room so that I can see everyone's faces. But if you look at people and look at the people who just take it in versus feeling like they always have to say something, those are the people who are truly in touch. And those people who sit back and as they listen to that person drone on and on over here because they just feel like they have to talk, and they're watching the facial expressions of everybody else around, that's how you learn who's truly engaged and who's not. Same thing for home. And unfortunately, I fall into this trap myself. I spend so much time during the day, and I'm listening to people, and I'm, being on my best behavior that when I get home, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be me now. No, I don't want to listen to anybody. I just want to talk. I've been listening all day. I just want to talk.
I want to talk.
I just want to talk. But it really is important to do is just to take a step back and take a breath. A lot of times it really is just taking that breath. And even though you're about to say it, just hold tight and let that person finish their sentence. Because it may really change your response.
That's right. Oh, absolutely, May. And it might take the heat out of a lot of conversations before they escalate if we listen instead of, and I say this a lot in terms of not focusing on proving ourselves right all the time.
That's right.
Or proving the other person wrong, just listening.
Just listening.
Just listening. I love also, Christy, I think I had mentioned this last time you were on, in each chapter you have quotes. Mm-hmm. From many people, maybe 10 or 12, I'm not counting, but, a whole bunch of quotes from significant leaders on that particular subject. And I was looking earlier today on your communication chapter. Mm-hmm. There's one from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Be sincere, be brief, be seated.
See, that is my philosophy. That is my philosophy.
I love it.
I think that is one of the best quotes in this book.
Really? Oh, that's so funny that I targeted that. Yeah, it's my favorite on your communication chapter. Yes. Uh-huh. Be sincere, be brief, be seated.
That's right.
Could we move on? Do you have just a couple more minutes?
Absolutely.
Would love to ask you, because we did not get a chance to talk about this last time, would love to ask you briefly to just touch upon your success chapter, because that's kind of the hope for objective with all of this.
That is the objective. And one of the things I really tried to achieve with this chapter is, and I didn't answer your question at the very beginning, so let me just back up for a quick second and tell people how the book is laid out.
Sure.
Because you did ask me that. I've laid this book out in 12 chapters, and I put them in the order that I did because I believe that those are kind of like the order of that gets you to the success of achieving that purpose and achieving that dream. So just really quickly, the chapters, the first chapter is inspiration, then there's faith, attitude, confidence, character, determination, dreams, decisions, change, talent, communication, and then ultimately success, to your point. So what I've tried to really do in this last chapter that I have people hoping they've gotten this far is to really give them examples of real-life people who kind of happened upon success based out of a necessity or just something that, happened by accident. And the two examples that I give in here is Lonnie Johnson, and people may not know the name, but they certainly have heard of the Super Soaker, which is that big old water gun, that it took him 10 years to actually bring that to fruition. So from the time that he accidentally, a faucet broke off in his sink and water just spewed across the room, that was the impetus for his idea for the Super Soaker. And he's an aerospace engineer, so he's got the brain, to create this thing. But that was what, kind of sparked the witty invention or the idea. And he spent lots of time developing, trying to get patents, being turned down. So failure upon failure upon failure, which would normally make a lot of people stop. Mm-hmm. 10 years later, this is a huge, over 40 million have been sold, $200 million, worth of sales.
Wow.
You think about another person and, call it your average woman, Marion Donovan, who I know most people don't know that name. She was the inventor of the disposable diaper in 1949. Now think about the state of the world. Think about the state of the world and the state of women, the status of women during that time. And she created this out of a need. She had children. She was tired of diapers leaking all over the place.
Can't understand that.
So that was, that's what prompted her to create this. And she went through, a couple iterations as well, and people, turning her down until finally the creator of Pampers took her up on it, bought the patent, and the rest is history, as they say.
Absolutely.
But these are just normal, everyday people. It's not people who already have lots of money. It's not people who already, they have this, whole notebook full of all these great ideas. These are normal people who said, I see a need, and here, how can I fill it?
I love it. So inspiring. Christy, thank you so much. Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams, speaking with the author, very inspiring woman hailing from Kentucky, Christy Demetrakis. Just one last question,
Sure.
Just so folks know that the word faith in your title is there not because of any religious orientation.
That's correct. That's correct, because as we talked before, Mary, people have a lot of faith in a lot of different things. And I personally am a Christian, and my background is very spiritual, and you'll see that reflected through the book. But certainly, faith comes from a lot of different places. So I think I've had lots of people of all different faiths and religions and non-religion read the book and be very inspired by it.
Absolutely. It comes from within.
Exactly.
It just comes from within. What is the best way for folks to get your book, Christy? Is it off your website?
They can get it off of my website. It's also available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
And the website, again, is empoweredspeaker.com. Is that right? Oh,
That's
Christy,
correct.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'd
Thank
love
you,
to have
Mary.
you back again. Enjoy the day. More importantly, just enjoy the heck out of that screened porch.
I will do. Thank you so much.
Christy, thank you. We'll stay in touch.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Oh, I really like her. And her book, really, Faith to Conquer Fear, Inspiration to Achieve Your Dreams. You can do it. It really goes along the line of so much of what I think about, so much of what I talk about in terms of we all have so much power and control over our lives, more than you might realize, and probably, undoubtedly, more than you've taken advantage of. So that's why I get so excited about bringing this information to you, because you can do it. We'll take a break. We'll be back for the final moments. Oh, my goodness. Is it just me, or has it flown by since noon? Give us a call if you would like to join the show in our last segment today. Great Monday here on Connecticut, 1-888-574-2723. This is Mary Jones.
Waterbury, WMMW Meriden.